On Wednesday afternoon, I collect the children from school. It's reminiscent of the queues at Disneyland. Just when you think you're nearing the school, they divert you around another building, inching forward slowly. Eventually, I reach the front of the line and discovered Dustin and Sarah patiently waiting for me. Now that they are 13 and 14, I am prohibited from displaying any affection. It's quite disheartening. What if my acquaintances catch sight of you behaving like this? Yes, they have reached the age where I function as a chauffeur, an ATM, and a source of food. I handle phone calls on Wednesdays because Hannah has her weekly project review. She leads a design team at the interior design firm where she is employed. They construct opulent office spaces and mansions as part of a nationwide organization. They ensure that each project is exceptional. There's nothing more disheartening than witnessing something you a substantial amount for being featured in someone else's corporate PR press release. Needless to say, I was taken aback to see Hannah's sedan in the driveway. Perhaps she had left something behind that she needed. Otherwise, why wouldn't she park in the garage? As the kids hopped out of the car, they immediately raided the refrigerator. Hey! Take it easy, guys. Leave some space for dinner. Placing my briefcase on the floor, I entered the living room to find Hannah curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. The day was warm, and the house was certainly not cold. Hey, darling, what's the matter? I'm not feeling well. My stomach is churning, and I'm experiencing some issues. What do you think it could be? It might be some sort of flu. All right, so why aren't you in bed? But I had an accident. Could you please change the sheets? As I took 2 steps into the bedroom, I realized what had occurred. I went to the garage and retrieved a nose clip and some latex gloves. At the very least, all of our beds are equipped with waterproof mattress covers, a habit from when the children were younger and would occasionally have accidents. Now we are prepared, however. They will only come into our bed when they feel worse than the dog. I had no intention of preparing dinner after this ordeal, so I opted to order pizza and take a shower, using up a can of air freshener. I sincerely hope that I don't contract whatever illness Hannah is struggling with after enduring a week of suffering and cleaning up the mess. Consequently, Hannah made an appointment with our family doctor. Unfortunately, it proved to be a complete waste of time, as the doctor provided predictable answers. They suggested it might be the flu and advised giving it more time. If the symptoms persist, we were told to return in a week. Consequently, 2 weeks later, Hannah visited the doctor again. She had lost several pounds due to her fear of eating, as she was worried about the consequences. Energy drinks had become her main source of sustenance. The doctor conducted some blood tests, but nothing was significantly abnormal enough to warrant further action in the following weeks. Hannah learned to live with her condition, although she felt terrible both physically and emotionally. She resorted to wearing adult diapers and baggy pants to conceal the fact that it was my responsibility to do the grocery shopping. No, I didn't use a shopping list. It was easier to pay the full price and have Hannah place online orders while the kids and I found activities to do on the weekends. Unfortunately, Hannah never felt well enough to join us. We carried on without her, but our personal lives have suffered greatly. It's not surprising, though. Who wants to engage in unpleasant tasks when there's a risk of experiencing even more unpleasantness? At least I found some relief in occasional self-pleasure. Oh, what a mess. 2 months later, Hannah sought the help of a specialist. Of course, she felt perfectly fine the day before her appointment. On the day of the appointment, they conducted numerous blood tests until our insurance deductible was met. Goodbye to those 5 pieces of our budget. They discovered elevated levels of unknown enzymes in her intestines, which made some sense but wasn't explained further. It was possibly related to Crohn's disease, but tests for that came back negative. The doctor advised keeping a close watch on the situation. One evening, I jokingly asked, "Do you think I'm the one making you sick?" Hannah responded, "How can you say that? You've been amazing at taking care of me since this all started. I'm exhausted from fighting this battle." Hannah's new lifestyle was that of a recluse. She spent most of her time working from home and rarely ventured outside. She continued to lose weight, shedding an additional 20 pounds. Occasionally, she would feel a bit better, but those moments of respite were short-lived, usually lasting only until the weekend. The children were so engrossed in their sports activities that they failed to notice Hannah's absence from their games. Time passed by in its usual manner. Although Hannah wasn't ill enough to miss work, she could feel her connection with her team slowly slipping away. Eventually, management demoted her. Months turned into years, and Hannah couldn't help but feel guilty about the lack of intimacy in their relationship. To compensate, she settled for occasional encounters, about once a week. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than nothing. When Dustin turned 16, he became quite a handful. Hannah no longer had to worry about getting him and Sarah to and from school, but instead, she fretted over their whereabouts when they weren't home. At least Hannah was making an effort to assist. Although she rarely felt 100%, she had learned to cope with her condition. For a brief period, it seemed like Hannah's bowel problems were improving, but after about 6 months, they resurfaced, and everything was just as terrible as before. Hannah found herself crying frequently. Her life continued on its usual course. Dustin graduated from high school and was preparing for college, while Sarah graduated early and left home as well. The day after Sarah's high school graduation, I confronted Hannah. "We need to have a conversation." "Very well. What is the matter?" "I have filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences." The initial look of shock on Hannah's face quickly transformed into intense anger. "Did you cheat on me? How could you do this to me? The children have grown up, and it is time for me to move on. How can you leave now? I know the past 5 years have been difficult, but my love for you never wavered. What have I done to deserve this?" Dennis Wilson. Hannah's eyes widened, and despite her best efforts, tears streamed down her face. "You know that's a foolish question. I was merely waiting for the kids to leave for college. It was more cost-effective to support you while they were still at home. I hope it was worth it. But John, that was years ago. We have already been through this. I apologize." Moving forward, Hannah's health drastically improved after I relocated. Her previous intestinal problems seemed to vanish. It was clear that I had been the cause of her illness. In order to move on from our past, we decided to sell the house and divide the profits. Initially, I believed that I could avoid seeking counseling, but that turned out to be a mistake. The outcome remained unchanged. Instead of continuing with a partner who had cheated on me, I preferred to take a chance on finding someone new. The devastating news of Hannah's affair with Dennis Wilson shattered me. I stumbled upon Hannah's secret email account and took the step of installing a program on my phone to monitor her activities. It was disheartening to realize that despite dedicating my life to our relationship, I was not enough for her. The intense desire to seek revenge gradually faded away as my lawyer explained the bleak future that awaited me. Being left penniless, while Hannah would be able to accommodate her lover in the house that we had purchased together, a house that I had invested all my free time in restoring. It seemed more financially viable to hold on to the house and wait until our children had grown up and moved out. My lawyer emphasized that Hannah could file for divorce at any moment, leaving me in a dire situation. This thought even made me contemplate fleeing the country. However, in the end, I did everything in my power to remain Hannah's husband. I chose to stay, and my children became the center of my life. Days passed by, and during my internet searches, I stumbled upon an April Fool's joke suggesting that mixing 2 liquid veterinary drugs could cause intestinal issues. Intrigued, I purchased and stored large bottles of each drug in the garage, along with a pack of syringes from China. Using the recommended syringes, I injected the mixture into Hannah's coffee supplies, particularly her beloved blueberry and hazelnut blend. Since the kids didn't drink coffee and I initially disliked the taste, Hannah didn't suspect anything until I increased the dosage of the concoction. That is why the initial Wednesday proved to be quite challenging for her. I must admit, I went a bit overboard. Initially, I used an excessive amount. However, eventually, I managed to find a balance. It was enough to make her feel terrible, but not severe enough to warrant a visit to the doctor. It was rather amusing how her friends, after consuming a cup of spoiled coffee together, ended up catching the flu. It was like friendly fire. I discovered that she had rejected Dennis on multiple occasions. No, it wasn't because she didn't want him. She simply didn't feel ready for it. After a few years, he finally gave up. I believed Hannah's novel was a lost cause. That's when I reduced the dosage of the medication, although not completely, as I was still seeking revenge. However, Hannah reached out to him again. I increased the dosage, and Hannah experienced a relapse. A week later, she sought help from the specialist once more. On the day before and the day of her appointments, I ensured that Hannah consumed conditioned coffee. Despite her claims of devastation and being unprepared for my divorce petition, her tears did not move me. It was only when I presented her with the investigator's report from 5 years ago that she realized the seriousness of my intentions. Dennis's wife received a copy and included Hannah in her divorce petition. I made sure that all of Hannah's friends and family received copies, which resulted in my phone no longer ringing. I was no longer seen as the heartless and indifferent person who abandoned a desperately ill Hannah in her time of need. Dennis suffered greatly during the divorce. Now he survives on ramen noodles and water, while his ex-wife entertains her new partner. I consider this to be sufficient revenge. Although I would love for Hannah to know how I achieved it, I fear that I may have crossed some legal boundaries. So, I smile often. Will I remarry? Most likely. No. Perhaps. Who knows? I cannot even enjoy dating without the fear of experiencing the heartbreak that Hannah caused me. Time heals is my last hope. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chef doesn't betray you. Feel free to proceed and listen to the upcoming narrative as it pales in comparison to the subsequent tale. However, if you are below 18 years old, it is strongly advised against contemplating the idea of listening to the following story.